All right, folks. So I'm going to show you something new that I think is going to be quite helpful for you. In class, we use the command window, but it turns out there's an easier way to save your code to make it work together. So I'm going to show you exactly what we did in class, except for I'm going to use something called a script. So I am going to, again, navigate to the file folder that I want. Going to go to my desktop. I'm going to go to my 352 folder, and I'm going to go into that same exercise folder. Part of your homework is going to be to calculate the runoff ratio for two other sites. So I'm going to show you how to do it for the first site that we used. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to redo that again. What I'm going to do is, instead of typing it all into the command window, I'm going to use something called a script. I am going to open a new script by clicking new script up here. And at the very top, I'm going to say, actually, I'm not going to say anything. I am going to save this as homework 1, because you're going to be doing that. So let's come back to our command window. As you remember from our class, you can essentially double click on any of these files to load them, and it writes the code for you to load those different things into Matlab. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to load my precipitation data, and it writes that code. And I am actually going to just copy and paste that load command into my script, and I'm going to save it. I need to load my streamflow data. So again, we're going to go to import data. We're going to make sure that CSV file is highlighted. I'm showing you what I see. I am going to select column vectors because I want everything to come in by itself. I'm going to say load, and it all appears. And I'm going to save this all now because I want to be able to load it all as a group. I'm going to save this as site1.mat. I'm going to press enter. What that means is if I say clear, get rid of everything from my workspace, and type load site1.mat, I can load everything. We actually don't need to separately load precipitation because we loaded that. So we're going to load this as site1. I'm going to get rid of that initial file up there. You're going to want to do this for site number 2 and site number 3 as part of your homework. I'm going to say load site1. And then over here, if I click run, it is running that whole script, and all of this stuff appears over here. So I want qtote and ptote again to be my 30-year sums. And I am actually going to add comments to my code to say that. I'm going to say sum streamflow over 30 years. I'm going to say data is in CFS, drainage area is in miles squared. So I can go to my workspace just like I did before. I'm going to go to my workspace, and I want Q_CFS to be the thing I'm converting. So Q_CFS. I'm going to convert that 944. Oh gosh, I don't remember what the conversion factor is, but if you forget it and you had typed it in before, you can actually press up and it'll show you all the things. 944, 628. 628. So divided by my drainage area underscore miles squared. And look at that, it's already trying to auto-complete it for you. What we figured out in class is we got to tell it to grab just the first row and just the first column. We want to sum that whole thing so that we only get one number for total stream flow in a 30-year period. ptote, as a reminder, we're going to use ppt. We want the second row. So we're going to tell it we want the second row, and we want all the columns in that. So ptote, we are going to sum file ppt, the second row values, all of them. And let's add some more comments here. So Q converted to millimeters per day, summed across all days. So that means we get Q in millimeter per 30 year. P is in centimeters converted to millimeters summed across 30 years. So we need to multiply by 10 to make sure that we can get precipitation into millimeters. And last but not least, we can type runoff ratio. We're going to say runoff ratio is equal to Q tote divided by P tote. And now what happens when I run this? I'm going to click run. And all of a sudden, things appear in my workspace. It does the same thing as running in the command window, except for you can run multiple things. So again, here runoff ratio appears as 0.5221. I'm going to do one last thing here. I'm going to add a 1 to the end of Q tote, P tote, and runoff ratio, because I'm also going to, well, you guys will be doing this for multiple sites. So I need to update Q tote to Q tote 1 and P tote to P tote run. Let's run it again. And we get an answer. Runoff ratio 1 has that value. This is all for site 1. You're going to repeat the same thing for site 2 and site 3. And then with your homework, you're actually going to turn in this script file. Any questions, you know where to find me.